Okay guys, we've been doing some work on filling the gaps. Let's take a look right here. These, on the back, there were these gaps because this piece has to sit right so the roof will fit in. So even in the instructions, they say it's okay for there to be a gap there. So what I did basically, you saw the process for me how to put the plastic card in and sand it smooth, and I've just repeated that process over here. Except for it didn't require two of the thick plastic cards. It would require one thick one, and then we sandwiched together one thin one. And over here, where the wing was warped, I'll tell you what, let's go to the bottom first. On the bottom, when we had a gap on the top, there was also a gap on the bottom. So obviously we moved the top back this far to accommodate the roof. So what we had to do was sandwich multiple pieces of plastic card together and then super glue them in there and then trim the tops off. So it's not going to be important that these are sanded down. You're not going to see them when the model's assembled. If you see these again after the model's assembled and painted, it means there's been a catastrophe and there's something really wrong with the model. So basically I've gone back in now. Why I did this was this top piece is only glued to these two things right here. So if you had picked it up like this, or someone sticks their hand in the back of it and lifts, there's a good chance this could separate. So what I wanted to do was make sure that I had other support, so we super glued these in to give that support. And on the bottom here, if you look up in the tube right there, where there was a significant gap, we also put some plastic card with super glue on it in there. And hopefully that's just going to buttress it and give it some more strength. Over here, if you look on this side, what happened was, if you remember, there was those big gaps where the shells came together. And so what we did was we took JB welds and we put them in there, and then we let it set up for a couple hours to get nice and hard. And then we came back in with the rotary drill, and I'm going to show you how we did that on the other side in just a second. But we took plastic card and filled the gap in here, all across the top. So if you remember, this part was warped out as far as one of these pieces. So like, let's say not even 1/4 of an inch, but it was enough to make a visible gap there. So what we did was we went in, we put the plastic card down, and then we filled it in with super glue, and then here with the sand and sticks. Once we paint it, we may need to hit it with sand and sticks again. So that was that. But how we accomplished this, there you cannot tell that there's a seam there. It feels like one piece of resin. And it is good to go. I'm telling you, rubbing your finger over it. Now, if that will translate to when we paint, if you'll see a line there, I don't know. But if we do, we'll just go back and keep sanding over it until we get it down to where there's no line at all. And then when the final model is assembled, you won't see any of this, no seams. It'll be seamless. Over here, this is what it looks like before you hit it with the Dremel. And that's exactly what I did, was I hit this with the Dremel, or else you would be here sanding for like a month. And so if Logan will sand in there, the Dremel makes really light work of this. The thing you got to be careful for is not to do it too much. And basically, if you can see the parts that are, have abrasions on them, those are the high points. Those are, we're knocking the hills tops off. And then you have the parts where you can still see the JB weld. Those are the valleys. And so we got to get to the point where we either fill them in or we sand down enough to where they disappear. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to sand down enough to where they disappear. And that is that. Now we'll come back in with our sanding pads and we'll put a little curve to this. This is a little bit different than the other one, but it's going to end up looking the same way. It'll be a nice curved, smooth surface. So for the intake, we're just going to take the Dremel. Can you see? All right. And that right there is our starting point. Like right now, it's really rough, but after I get the sandpaper sticks in there, we'll smooth it out and, we'll make it really smooth. clean it up a little bit. And so what happens now is I got to get a little bit more of the JB weld out right there. But then we'll come in with sanding sticks and sanding pads, and we'll just keep hitting it until it's smooth like the other side. One thing I've done, didn't work out too good, but I've got this on a piece of tubing. You know, it doesn't, I thought it was going to work out better. It was good to move some big stuff out, but really I found I was able to get in there with sanding sticks like this. And what you do is you cut the sanding stick off so that you can reach up to the flat places like this. Or, you know, you put pressure on it and it will bend to the shape of the intake. So basically what I'm doing is I'm putting pressure on it and it's causing it to cave in the middle, and it comes up on the sides, and it basically will now take the shape of what's going on in there. And so I can actually get some stuff moved, and it's already starting to smooth out. So there's a lot of divots in the JB weld. This is going to take a little bit more. I'm probably going to have to go back in there with some super glue and smooth out some of those rough spots. But we'll see how it looks here in a little bit when we get done. All right, so we'll be right back. All right, guys, what I wanted to show you here, this is called a flex file. You can find them at regular hobby stores. They're made out by a company called Creations Unlimited. And what it's made to do is actually, if you filed this with a straight sanding stick, eventually what you're going to do is make it more of a point than a curve. And so what you're going to do is you take your flex file, and the sandpaper actually bends over the corner, and then you can sand it, and it actually keeps its curved shape. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make this a seamless curve. And what I'm going to actually be able to do here with the flex file is make sure that that maintains its shape. And we're buffing out the bigger scratches from the earlier full grit sandpaper, and now we're making progress. And now that's nice and smooth. There's no way that there's going to be a seam line there. And everybody will wonder how you did that. But you guys already know because you saw this. So the trick will be to make all this seam match up. And that's going to take a lot of dry fitting and stuff. But I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out. All this is nice and smooth now. And there you go. Once it's painted, you shouldn't even see a line there. Alright guys, what we're going to do now is we've got all the other seams in. We're going to work on these right here. And how we're going to work on this is we're going to use our heat gun. We're going to heat the resin up just a little bit. And we're going to try and get it to tuck down into the corner there. I don't want to end up sanding this off a lot. If you can see, I don't want to get in there, and I don't want to sit there and sand all this if I don't have to. So if I can nudge it into place a little bit, then that's what we're going to do. And then if we have to sand on top of that, then that's what we'll end up doing. But what we're going to do is we're going to do that first, and then if we can get this done, then we're going to add plastic card to this, and we're going to fill these gaps. And that way it won't we won't have that problem. So let's see if we can get this to work. Got our little heat gun here. It's like a big blow dryer is what it is. Good. Oh, there we go. Alright, we warmed it up. I'm starting to get a little flex to it. Warm it up just a little bit more. There we go. That's a lot better. All right, check out the difference. That's a big difference. if we can just keep that down, let it dry, then we won't have to sand as much. Only reason why I'm using the paint handle is because that stuff's hot. So, still got a lip here I'm going to have to deal with, but that's okay. And not so much of a lip there. Alright guys, check this out. This is how you make a mistake trying to fix another mistake. That is the inside of the Manta on the back deck where the cargo door is. And that piece of plastic card protruding out is where I attempted to fix the gap underneath. So what I've essentially done is block my door from moving forward, just like that. So what I have to do now, what I had to do to fix it, is to pop off the cover, which went right here. And now I just have to go in and use my tools to cut that off. You know, it's not going to be that difficult of a thing. It's just that, you know, a little forethought into this, I could have probably saved myself some trouble. But the fact is that we'll have this minor thing fixed in just a jiffy, and then we'll be pressing on with the assembly. Alright guys, what we're going to do now is a little voiceover work because my audio is corrupted. I'm not sure what happened, but what I'm explaining here is the lid had a gap all the way around the edge. And what I did to fix that was I put multiple layers of plasticard, thin plasticard, glued on top of each other. And then you snipped it off, just like that piece I have there. So after a lot of test fitting, I discovered that there was still a gap. So I added a couple of layers of plasticard. And I glued it down with the Tamiya instant adhesing glue. It's a little bit more. It's Tamiya cement. You'll see the bottle here in just a second. But more or less, what I've done is I've just glued it down so where it would stay in place. It's been fused to the other piece of plasticard, and now I'm cutting it with scissors to minimize the amount of. There's the Tamiya, to minimize the amount of sanding that we have to do. And it's really thin, so it cuts really well. And now it's pretty much down. And what we'll do at this point is we'll take our scissors, or our sanding sticks, and we'll sand it smooth. And then the whole time we'll layer it with glue like you see us doing there. And what that does is it just makes it look like one solid piece of plastic. And then as you continue to test fit it, you test fit it, and then you put it back into the slot, and then you just add more plasticard as you need to fill the hole. And that's how we end up doing it all the way around. So what you'll see me doing here is going through and adding glue to stuff that's already been attached, and then we'll touch it up as we need to. As it turns out, it worked out really well in filling the gaps. So while there is still a noticeable small seam there, it's nowhere near as big as it was before we started. So let's move on. Alright guys, here I wanted to show you the type plasticard I used. It's available at any hobby store. This is the Evergreen Scale Models plasticard. It's this is really thin sheets. But this stuff comes in multiple different types of sheets. Thick, thin. You can have serrated edges on it. It has patterns, you know. What we're doing here is we're test fitting it. The lid to see. And this lid, I tell you what, fits a lot better now that we've put this plastic card on there. It's a lot more snug, and it actually looks a lot better.